Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. This is Spirit Matters, your daily spiritual check-in. My name is Dal Grunga, and I'm so glad that you are with us. Thank you to our Zoom studio audience who is joining us, and thank you to you, wherever you're listening from. It's another day. You made it, and last night I had a community group at the Bhakti Center, and it went like 45 minutes overtime because as we were checking out, we were just kind of sharing some reflections, and one particular person was just sharing some of the struggles that they were going through, and I just reflected that life can be really, really hard sometimes. And then people just start opening up floodgates about just struggles or things people are going through, and it can be a tough world out there sometimes. And wherever you are right now, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are loved, you are sheltered, you are connected. And that's what we're here for, just to remind ourselves, because life can get really overwhelming sometimes. And life got really overwhelming for Arjuna, extremely overwhelming. And Krishna was there to comfort him, not by making his tough circumstances go away, but by giving him a perspective that you will outlast your problems, that you are deeper than what you're going through, that what you think will crush you actually will is less, doesn't have the ability to crush your soul. It may have the ability to crush your understanding of the way the material world is supposed to be, or the way life is supposed to be. And um, we don't always get our material prayers answered. That's a fact. That is a fact, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody, that we don't always get our material prayers answered. And bhakti is not a prosperity gospel where you do all the right things and all the right things start to happen, because sometimes we don't, not to be cliche, but we don't always get what we want, but we do get what we need in order to grow spiritually. And Krishna is looking out for us in that regard. Krishna is looking out for us in that regard because he doesn't want to sell us short. He does not want to sell us short. And if you're listening to this podcast, you have some connection to spiritual life, you are an elevated, amazing soul, because you've somehow at some point in your life ask the question, throw your hands up, opened up your heart and said, I want something more. I want something deeper. I want to connect to something more than just what life has been giving me. And we're seeking answers. We're seeking connection. And so when Krishna hears that plea of the sincere living entity, he starts to reciprocate and he starts to pull us closer. And so whatever you're going through, whatever it might be, you're bigger than it, and it's not going to crush you. And it will, Krishna mentions, somebody in our chat was talking about the second chapter of the Gita, the temporary appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance over time are like the coming and going of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Doesn't mean that it's not disturbing, doesn't mean that it's not challenging, but it's just I recognize, because depression is often the lie that this moment will last forever. This feeling is the new reality. And it's just not true. It's a temporary experience of struggle, of sorrow, of misconception about myself, lies that I'm telling, my mind is telling me about who I am and about what other people think of me, and the meaning of my life, right? It's very rarely the things that happen to me, but more the stories of what I tell myself about what happens to me. It's not that I, messed up at work that I'm so bothered about. It's that I messed up at work and I feel like an idiot. I feel like a failure. I feel like people are judging me. I feel like I'm incompetent and that I'm unworthy. And it's the story that I tell about myself. Um, and so it's the stories about what happens to us that really are the hard thing to carry. And so the Bhagavad Gita is an opportunity to write a new story about the meanings of things in life, a new story to write about the meanings of things in life. And so I'm just letting you know, that little opening message, that you are in divine hands and you are being guided. And I don't know your particular circumstances. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know specifically the flavor of struggle and suffering that you may be experiencing. Some of you may just be like, Today's great. I just wanted to come and experience gratitude. Why are we talking about all this terrible stuff that I'm trying to forget about? You just reminded me about all the pain and trauma in my life. Why are you bringing this up? And so, if that's the case, God bless you and God bless all of us. And we all experience that as well. There's beauty in life. And something that we discussed in our group last night was that it's often that sometimes the sufferings that we experience in life can create bitterness and create a hard shell around the heart where we get closed off. But actually, what another opportunity is that the sufferings of our life can actually soften our heart. It can soften our heart and make us more compassionate towards ourselves and towards other people. Can make us more loving. Can make us more open-hearted, because we recognize that everybody is experiencing challenge and tribulations on some level at some point in their life. And so if you're in a beautiful space right now and life is sunshine and rainbows, that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. And the fact that you're able to experience that with an open heart is a blessing. And if we're experiencing a challenge or we're experiencing some great difficulty, then we should also know that you're loved and you're cared for, and life will bring all of it to us at different times. I was listening to a class by Ranaswam yesterday. He has there's a podcast of collected addresses that he's given at different times. And he was talking about a rainbow is a combination of both the sunshine and the rain are reflected equally in that rainbow. The sunshine of joy and the tears of rain, the rain of our tears reflect equally to form the colors of a rainbow. And so life has those mixed experiences. So anyways, moving on from that point, I just wanted to say that I love you and I'm glad you're here. And we've been reading Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna's talking about different types of sacrifices that we can perform to get different results in our spiritual life. Life is a sacrifice, right? Being in a relationship is a sacrifice. Raising kids is a sacrifice. Holding a steady job is a sacrifice. Being a good person is a sacrifice. Driving in New York City is a sacrifice, holding back, all the things you want to do to the other drivers out there, restraining yourself and is a sacrifice. And so we're in chapter 4, verse 32. And Krishna says, all these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. O chastiser of the enemy, he's talking to Arjuna, the sacrifices performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. I'm going to read the commentary here because it's related to what we've been talking about. And if you're just tuning in, just bear with us. This will all come together, hopefully. Stepping into a midway point of the movie. In the commentary, it mentions the purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from material miseries, and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. Nonetheless, there is a mystery about all these different activities of sacrifice, and one should know this mystery. Sacrifices sometimes take different forms according to the particular faith of the performer. So in sacrifices are to arrive at the status of complete knowledge. And then that knowledge allows me to gain release from material miseries because I'm not so caught up in things and I'm not so attached to things. I'm able to detach myself a little bit from the circumstances. And that allows me to choose to engage my heart in a loving, transcendental service to the Supreme and to every living being who's connected to that Supreme. So it begins by coming to the place of knowledge. And what is knowledge? It's very interesting how Krishna in the 13th chapter of the Gita describes what is knowledge. And I think we talked about this last week when we were talking with Vasudeva, that in the 13th chapter of the Gita, Krishna defines knowledge as humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, steadiness, self-control, absence of false ego, freedom from entanglement, even-mindedness, continuous devotion. So these things are described as knowledge. So when Krishna mentions, and Srila Prabhupada's mentioned in the commentary, that sacrifices are meant to bring us to a state of complete knowledge, it also means that that knowledge is meant to bring about character transformation. That ultimately I'm on a journey of becoming a more loving and compassionate, living, open-hearted living being. And if my quote unquote sacrifices, my lifestyle, the things that I'm doing, my spiritual practices are making me closed off to people, I have to question what it actually means to be spiritual. And so we have to be on a day-to-day basis, checking in with ourselves regularly. What's the condition of my heart? What's the condition of my feeling of superiority or indignation towards other people versus my spirit of compassion and connectivity and love and connection? And that begins, he says, release from material miseries. How do I get released from material miseries? When I recognize that things don't belong to me. That's such a huge message of the Gita. It's like things that I think are mine actually don't belong to me. And the pain, so much of the pain of material life is when I hold on to the idea that this belongs to me. And then when it gets taken away, it's painful. Whether it's a physical thing, whether it's money or an object that I possess, that I lost in a flood or a natural disaster or in a recession or in a market crash or just in a theft, something that was mine is taken from me and is painful. Or whether it's something else, it's a person, it's a career, it's a reputation, it's something more subtle. It's a recognition of something that I think belongs to me. And so much of the Gita is getting us to a place, Krishna's message is let go of the idea that things belong to you. And bringing yourself to a place of neutrality, it's not just doesn't belong to anybody, but things ultimately belong to that supreme person. And so don't just like let it all go and say, well, it doesn't belong to me, so nothing belongs to anybody, so I don't care, so I just completely disengage. But actually, everything is meant to be used in service of that supreme person. That's bhakti. And why do I do that? Because that's the training ground for love. When I practice the art of letting go of the idea that things belong to me, my family doesn't belong to me. My husband or wife doesn't belong to me. My kids don't belong to me. My money certainly doesn't belong to me. It can get taken away against my will. Even my health doesn't belong to me. Nothing belongs to me and is mine. But while I have it, allow me to use it in a greater service beyond myself. And when exercising that opportunity, do it in a meditation of, I'm not just doing it for the sake of, some moral obligation or fear of being punished if I don't. I'm doing with a prayer and a meditation, like Gajendra in the 8th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. He was in distress and he offered a lotus flower to Vishnu. And he was just, this is all I've got. I'm just making this prayer. Jahnavi and Willow Smith sing that beautiful song about Gajendra. This is my prayer. I'm letting go. I let go, and my prayers come and claim me as your own. So that's supreme absolute truth. Like, let me flex the muscle of love that is innate to every single living being. That is innate to every single living being. And so again, this lines of the commentary, the purpose of all sacrifices is to arrive at the status of complete knowledge, then to gain release from all material misery. So I gain to a place of knowledge that things don't belong to me. And I allow that to transform my character. And that allows me to release from material miseries because I'm no longer attached to things belonging to me and going a certain way. And then I'm able to therefore engage in loving transcendental to that supreme person. And the level of faith that I have that if I let go of the things that I'm attached to, that I'll still be okay. I'll still be whole. I'm not missing out or losing out on a piece of myself. I'm actually creating space to discover my real self. The commentary goes on, when one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifices should be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. But without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform and bestow no spiritual benefit. We can say little to no spiritual benefit, because it's just a mechanical ritual, as opposed to something of substance with a prayer in the heart for my transformation. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. It's a powerful statement. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, fruit of activities, and sometimes jnana kanda, knowledge in the pursuit of truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. It's a really beautiful commentary. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. A lot to chew on. That's my rant for today. I'm going to turn over to Kimberly, ask her what some of our takeaways are, and then we'll wrap it up and send you guys on your way. What you got for us, Kimberly?
All right, today we're taking it away to write a new story of being guided by divine hands. The sunshine of joy and the rain of our tears can make a beautiful rainbow. Things ultimately belong to the Supreme Person, and to let go of the idea that things belong to us, we've been entrusted with these gifts to use in service beyond ourselves.
Thank you so much. That's what I'm walking away with, just that things don't belong to me. And I don't have to, and you can actually, I was thinking about this even before the podcast, the idea of just like simplifying life. I think that's something that a lot of people are yearning for, is being able to simplify things. And I think what gets in the way of simplifying things is the idea that I'm in control and I have to do everything, because otherwise I'm not a complete person, or I'm going to miss out on the experience I want to have in life. And I think the experience I'm looking for in life is right here in this moment, and I'm not going to miss it if I can actually let things go, and I can simplify internally, because I can let go of this idea that I have to control things and be involved in everything and blah, 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 whatever it is, in order to achieve spiritual. I mean, Prabhupada mentions it right there. He says that, let's see, real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness in the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they're elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter onto the spiritual platform. So it's my consciousness. And if I can transform that consciousness, I don't need to go chasing experiences. I can just be present in this moment and experience Krishna's love in my life right here and right now. And that's happening. It's coming through the airways. Not me speaking. It's not me trying to give you some life tips. It's all of us opening ourselves up to the way Krishna's speaking to us in different ways, in different places, through different people. And I pray and I hope that you experience that today and every moment throughout the days of your life, because we all need it very, very much so. And that's why we're here. That's why I'm grateful for you for being part of our little family. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Till then, be well, tell someone you love them, and we will see you then. Bye-bye, everybody.